welcome back. I am refilming this review for you guys because I did it yesterday, but the audio didn't record. So I am hoping and praying that the audio is recording this time. But yeah, second film I saw at the festival was one I actually didn't initially intend on watching. But I wanted to watch 10 films. I had 9 on my badge, but I wanted to add one more. And I was trying to get into this like Korean horror movie, but it was sold out. So I was like, I can't do that. So I was like, well, let me look what's next, what they have next. And so I got tickets for The Mission, which is a documentary. If y'all don't know what it's about, I recently just learned about this story about an evangelical Christian by the name of John Chow, who back in 2018, he visited this island off the coast of Indonesia and was killed for sharing the gospel. So those movies that it really had an effect on me, this one did, because I myself, grew up in like the church and the missions fields, stuff like that, and was have been on a few trips and such, not like out of the country, but I've been on a few like mission trip kind of things. So I was like, I knew this one would kind of speak to me personally, and it really did, because honestly, you don't have to be I don't feel you have to be a believer to watch this film, because I talked to someone who was Jewish, so they weren't evangelical or Christian. I talked to someone who was Jewish after the film, and they still really liked it. They said it was devastating and emotional, and it was interesting having a conversation with them after the film. I talked to several different people, and there was several different people with different beliefs in there. So you don't have to be a believer to watch this, because there's so much more than, it's a story about faith and just unlimited faith, just to go out and be that brave and just and that bold. But it's also just about, culture clashes, because you've got the people in Indonesia and this American, and they won't accept his culture either. And so it's there's so much more in there than just faith, but faith is a big part of it. So this is one I would recommend for anyone to watch. And it's just, I feel so bad. And so the parents, I know they still gotta be struggling, because apparently his mom wanted him to be a doctor. His dad wanted him to get like a pilot's degree or something, or go into the military or something. I forget what his dad wanted, but they wanted something like that. And so when they heard about this, they didn't believe quite to the same extent that he did. So they respected their son for doing this, but they also it was very interesting to hear from his dad. And I don't know where his mom is in his life, but I wish we would have heard from her. We didn't really hear from her in this movie. We heard mostly from his dad. So that's like one kind of issue I have with it. But it's a very well-made documentary, not very stereotypical. To me, there is some weird parts. For example, unlike They Shot the Piano Player, which was the first one I watched, this film had some weird like animated sequences, and for me, the animation was beautiful, but it had no reason to be there. Like, I understand the dad, that I understand, because if the dad didn't want to show his face, they animated him. That was all of his interviews was animated. I understand if he didn't want to show his face, you animate the dad. But then they animated so much more, and I was like, why are you doing this and mixing in the live action? There's really no point. I thought that was kind of weird. Took me out of it a couple times. And then there was also one of the other issues I had with it is I liked the fact that they were relating things to certain movie clips. and you're watching this in a full packed theater at a film festival, so that's obviously cool. But they go too much with it. Like, they start showing clips from the original King Kong. They show clips from like Edge of the Spear. They show clips from all these other classic movies, and some I never even heard of. So I'm like, okay, I guess I'll check that out one time. But I'm just like, it. After a while, showing those got kind of repetitive in nature. So I was like, you could have trimmed that down just a bit, and it would have been smoother overall. But overall, guys, like, this is still a very beautiful story. I admire this man so much because, and I've talked to my girlfriend about this and other people about this, but I have a big issue today with quote unquote Christians, because there are people out there that call themselves Christians, but they're so self-righteous, or they're so, oh, because I have, this in me, y'all have to listen to me because I'm special. Like, they've got that personality to them, and it just comes off as immature, and it's an issue I've been having lately. And so there are certain denominations I've been studying, certain churches I've been hopping from and such, because it's one of those things where I just notice that more and more nowadays with Christians. And I've told people this before. There's a difference between religion and there's a difference between being faithful. I consider myself faithful. Like, but I don't really consider myself religious, and I will explain why. Because religion is a man-made thing. Religion is man telling you how you should live. They're using the Bible, but they're saying this is how you should do this. This is how you should do this. Faith is that relationship with God, and you are saying, like, okay, God is telling me how to live my life. He is working through me, and that is truly what it should be, and that is faith. And one thing I really love about this documentary is the idea that this one girl says, since we all have free will, you should never not tell someone about God, because it's like, she says, it's letting that person have their free will to say yes or no. She's like, if they say no to Jesus, that's their decision, but they also could say yes, and you're giving that person that choice to make, rather than giving them no choice at all. And so I was like, looking at that, I was like, yeah, that's really powerful. And one thing I talked to the Jewish person afterwards about this, I've talked to my girlfriend's mother before, and she even has said this before too, is we have to differentiate what God is calling us to do and what our own thoughts are saying. Sometimes we do that. We confuse what God is calling us to do over our own thoughts. And so when I'm watching this documentary, at first when I'm watching it, I'm like, through most of it, I'm like saying, is this God telling you to do this, or is this your own thoughts that are telling you to do this? But then he talked about a certain revelation that happened, and I was like, okay, that stuff like that, I feel, is when God is calling you to an assignment. Even if it fails, like it did for him, it's just the idea, the love and the compassion there. So it's it reminds me a lot of Martin Scorsese's Silence, which is one of my favorite movies from Martin Scorsese. That one deals with Catholicism instead of evangelical Christian, but it is still fascinating about these priests who are trying to rescue this other priest who is stuck in Japan because that priest is trying to share the gospel with Japan. And so they're trying to go over there to get him. And while they're there, they're going to try to convert some people. And so when they get there, the priest has pretty much become part of their lifestyle now. He's no longer a priest. He's part of their lifestyle. And then in the movie, Adam Driver and Andrew Garfield play the other two priests. It's pretty much that culture clash, like I talked about, of them saying, you have to deny Christ with us or we will torture you and kill you and all this. And it's just this like really, really powerful, really good movie. So I definitely recommend that because that's also in the similar vein. And in a time, I don't get political on this channel, but all I'll say is like in a time when we're dealing with the culture clash right now in society, this is a movie that is extremely relevant right now, just in that fact alone. And so that's another reason why I respect this movie a ton. And it really had an effect on me. Yeah, guys. So definitely, if y'all get the chance, this is from National Geographic. Thank you, National Geographic, for this wonderful opportunity to see this in the theater, because I probably wouldn't get to see it in theater since it's National Geographic. And thank you to Virginia Film Festival for letting me watch this movie, because this is one that I definitely am going to be thinking about. And the person who did the introduction even mentioned like it'll make you contemplate your own life and start looking at your life in that way, being like, am I making the right steps? Am I making the right decisions in my life? So it's fascinating, guys. So I definitely recommend it. I would give it a 3.5 out of 5 because of those issues I have with it. But still, guys, it is a really solid, really good documentary. So check this one out whenever you get the chance. You don't have to be a believer to see this, but if you are a believer, you will get something even more out of it. So highly recommend it. I will see you all in the next video. And until next time, God bless, my friends. Oh my God, that is Bob Ross. Okay. There we go.